Welcome back into the kitchen. Grabbing the ingredients out of the pantry, everyone. It's the Retirement Chef, Whipping Up Wealth with Brian Butler, the CEO and Senior Wealth Advisor for Wealth Standard Financial there out of Houston, Texas. You can hit him up, the team and him, at wealthstandardfinancial.com or call him 713-955-6007. I'm your co-host, Doug Turnbull here. And Brian, we're in the studio, well, virtually at least, again, together today. And how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. It's another great day in Houston, another great day to give some retirement advice to people, and I'm excited to do it.
And you're so great at doing it. In fact, last episodes, we talked about a tricky topic. A lot of them are, right? But the idea of paying down debt versus savings. So check that out. The past episodes are on the podcasters, especially Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And just look up Whipping Up Wealth there. And if you hear something that you think people in your circle need to know, flip that link to them and turn the subscriptions on yourself so you can get the notifications on that come out when these shows are out roughly every 2 weeks. Now, Brian, this is a time of year where things start to get busy. You're charging right towards springtime. It's one of my favorite times of year because baseball's firing up. Spring training is. NASCAR's firing up. We're recording this the day after the Daytona 500. I'm all decked out. I'm all excited about that. I'll be out in the Lone Star State at Circuit of the Americas in Austin at the beginning of March. And we wanted to talk about, too, that you're starting to ramp up some events. We talked about in the last episode. There's going to be an office move coming. What kind of events will you be doing in the Houston community, in the Houston area here in quarter one, quarter two of this year?
So we are excited to do more events this year because it really gives us a chance to help more people and, get the conversation going with some people, but also find out what's really important because everybody's different and it keeps us on our toes to find out what's really important with people because, the news, the political situations, the global climate, debt, the country, things change and different things are important to people. So we want to get out there. So we plan to do several long-term care conversations because that long-term care conversation is a underappreciated conversation for people because they want to kick the can down the road.
Oh, yeah.
But it's a huge estate planning and a tax strategy part of their financial plan. So that's going to be a major focus for us this year. But then, of course, taxes and retirement never goes away because more baby boomers are retiring every year and they're going to get beat up with taxes and it's going to continue. And so how do you have a plan for that? And how do we protect some of your money and keep it with you and your family? And then that leads into our next seminars that we plan to do are around estate planning. So it all connects and they're all related and you need all of them when you come to a retirement plan. And that's our target. So we really want to focus and get in front of as many people as possible, both locally and around the country. So we'll have in-person events, we'll have webinars, and they're going to be on our new events page that we're going to have on the website that's going to list out all of those events as they come up. So our target is to do a couple a month and then maybe more, depending on the demand that's out there. So I'm excited to do that because I really get to meet new people. They get to hear our message because if we don't tell them, they'll never know that we exist. And we get that all the time that I've been searching for a new financial advisor or I don't like my financial advisor. I'm glad that we were able to find you. So that tells me I need to do more events.
Well, look, that's a great way to put it there. And I know we talked last episode about toying with the idea of, hey, do we just go totally virtual or do we have it in person? And you're blending both here by having those events. So you'll find more about them as they come about at wealthstandardfinancial.com. And I'm sure there'll be a little bit on the Wealth Standard Financial Facebook page too. All right, so we're going to spill some tea today, Brian. Okay, I know you're the retirement chef. You like to cook. We're going to spill a little tea. I found an article on marketwatch.com. And here's the headline, all right? He doesn't drink, smoke, party, or gamble. My boyfriend, 55, is perfect in many ways, but gets mad if I ask him to contribute. And basically what happens is you got a mother here and then a boyfriend. The boyfriend doesn't have any kids. The mother has kids that are growing, teenagers. And just based upon his job requirements, he stays in her house 80% of the time, even though he has his own property. Mm-hmm. He stays there 80% of the time, does manual labor around the house, cuts the grass and things like that. Mm-hmm. And she finally approached him because this has been going on for several years about she approached him about, hey, you're staying here a lot. Could you chip in a little bit on some of the things that you're using around the house? And he says, well, no, I give my labor, right? And I've got my own house to pay for. And she just, it doesn't sit right with her, despite the fact that he checks a lot of other boxes. And it reminded me of the conversation that people not only have with significant others where it's squishy, right? They're not married or engaged, and are they living together or not? There's still two properties, but also the conversation, and Brian, your father, that people have with their kids as they get grown. At what point does the bank of mom and dad have a few more restrictions? I'm sure you meet with clients. I know you focus a lot on retirement, but think about people on the doorstep of retirement, and they're trying to make sure their income is a little more predictable, and then they have these other things weighing them down. How do you walk them through these touchy conversations?
Well, these are definite retirement conversations, because anytime you have a financial drain, whether that be a person, a bill, a medical issue, it's a definite part of your retirement that we need to address. And so there's an invisible cost to helping someone. So it's a cost financially that you can see directly in your bank account, but it's also a mental cost, which is a huge part of retirement. So if you go into retirement stressed out, you were already stressed when you were at your job. So you just basically traded one stress for another stress. And is that something that's going to eat away at you? So if it's bothering you a little bit today, a year from now, it's going to be driving you crazy. So the earlier you address it, and I think that's the biggest thing when it comes to whether it be retirement savings, dealing with a relationship. The earlier you address the problem, the faster you can get to a resolution. Now, whether that be a good resolution or a negative resolution is up to you, depending on how you talk to the person. But anytime you have a kid, we see that all the time right now with baby boomers and their kids or, grandkids. We see a situation where they want to take care of them. They don't want to tell them no, but it puts them in a bad financial position or a stressful position. So having clarity on the expectation versus the reality of the relationship is the key. And so when you are able to have the conversation, don't put it off, tell your concerns, you usually get some clarity. Because in that article, for example, if that woman comes up to him and said, hey, I'm really not comfortable with you being here 80% of the time and contributing barely anything financially. I get that you're doing some things around the house, but I do things around the house, but I still have the bills that are coming in. How can we come up with a equitable solution? And if they're going to tell you who they are in that scenario. So either it's going to be a positive where they step back and look at the scenario and say, you know what, I can do X, Y, Z. And if they are, give you nothing but pushback and tell you, I do enough, and if you don't like it, well, we'll just break up. Well, that might have led you to a better decision anyway, long term. Short-term pain for long-term happiness. Yeah. So addressing these situations, just like in retirement, the earlier you address them, you have much better chance of recovering and doing significantly better when it comes to your retirement.
Oh, that's a great point, is that short-term pain for long-term gain, right? These, when you're in a situation of adversity, usually there's something great that could be gained from that, even if it's a terrible thing. But a tougher one, though, is you can't break up with your kids, right? And so you got the kids, the adult kids, and I think about the adult kids that linger at home too long. Maybe they've even got now jobs where they could technically live on their own, but they haven't got married yet or haven't found the right person, so they're just hanging and saving money. And here you are, they're living off the farm, right? But then there's also the other one where the grandparents are so darn generous to both the parents and the grandkids. And that's a tough place to draw a line, because you want to spend time with your family, but at what point are you giving too much and to your detriment? How do you, an advisor, walk someone through that, especially when you can see the pushback being, well, of course your wealth advisor is going to tell you that. They want you to have more money with them. It's such a touchy thing.
Well, a lot of times, so this is how it can apply to kids living in your house. So more millennials, more Gen Zers live with their parents than ever before. And should they pay rent to cover groceries, electricity? I mean, if they're eating your food, using your electricity, and sleeping in your house, but not paying a dime, could it be time for a reality check? So that's one way to look at it. Another way, and I've seen this with families, and, they will give this to their kids as a gift. So instead of them necessarily, giving kids money or a trust fund or something like that, they want them to be able to come back home, let's say after college, pay off their student loans, save for a house so that they can go into their working lives without much debt. So it's all about perspective. So one way sounds a lot better, that I'm giving you this gift, but the expectation is that you're paying off debt and saving while you're working and moving forward with your life, or just being a freeloader. You can definitely see the difference between the two, and every situation is different, but parents know the freeloading children or boyfriend, girlfriend, and then they know the ones that are responsible, that are working towards something. So it's all about setting that expectation up. Do you know the reasons why they're living there? And is there an end to the situation? Is there an out? What's the outcome? Usually, if you're working towards something, people can be much more flexible. But if you're working towards nothing and you see no end in the future, that uncertainty creates anxiety. And with that anxiety, it just creates stress. And so it's just a cycle that you'll continue to be in until you take a stand and say, hey, this is how I feel, this is what I want, and work towards that.
I would think you would say it's important to set those boundaries, even if the parents, let's say, or the significant other are very well off and it's not actually affecting their retirement planning because they have a war chest, so to speak. It's that idea of anxiety and stress are priceless, or the lack of them are priceless. I mean, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you just want to, if you're working towards something, it makes things much easier than just, if I sit you on a treadmill and just said, walk, you're like, how long? Until I say stop. That's going to create a lot of stress for you. But if I say, hey, get on this treadmill, we're going to do 3 miles and see how you do. Well, you have a goal that you can be focused on. But if you're on that treadmill and you have no idea when you're going to be able to stop, are you going to get on that treadmill? Are you going to stay on it?
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah. And maybe if they're somehow kids or the people that are on the flip side of this listening to this too, think about, hey, if I need to ask something of a person, let me tell them, hey, I really need a break here for 6 months. Mm-hmm. Can you let me crash? I'm going to save this much money, or that's my goal, and then we can reevaluate, or I can get out. That's going to go over a lot better than, hey, I just need to please stay until I can figure out how to use my Russian art history degree,
exactly,
or whatever it is. So, and I'm sure you've seen people where this does work to the detriment of their retirement.
No, absolutely. I have a client that had a son late in life. I think she was in her 50s when she had her son. And for the first 28 years, he never had a job. And she did everything for him, to his detriment, I think.
Yeah.
And, when you're looking at a situation like that, when she put her foot down and said, hey, you got to get a job or you got to go, he was in shock, one.
Yeah.
But he stepped up. He got a job. He started becoming more responsible. And you're not really helping people if you're handicapping them. And you really have to look at the individual person. Some people, you would never have to bring this up. Other people, you're going to have to push them because they'll get comfortable really, really quick.
Yeah, and it's easy to get more comfortable with your family than it is maybe they may be a bulldog somewhere else, but then at home they just kind of let the belt buckle loose and say, hey, I'm good, we're good, right, we're good. Do you think, last question here before we start to wrap up, do you think that your conversation with this particular mother helped guide her in the direction of putting her foot down finally?
Oh, it did, because once I spelled out, this is what your retirement's going to look like if there are no changes, and are you okay with that? That was my question.
Wow.
And there was silence for a good 45 seconds.
Oh, wow.
Which is a long time to be silent.
Yeah. I told you we'd get some. Wow, that's incredible.
And she said, you're right. And then that started the process of, becoming more focused on what she wanted and less on what he wanted. And once she did that, her life got a little bit easier. Were there some hard conversations? I'm sure there were. But you have to have hard conversations to get to something good.
You got to get through the second time we're saying it this show. You've got to live through the bad to get to the good sometimes. If somebody wants to begin the conversation with you, hopefully not as hard of a conversation, though I'm sure you'll have some pointed questions if the savings is all out of whack. How do they get in touch with you? And, are there any obligations in that first talk? What do you do?
So the great thing about what we do is because we want to meet people and see if we can help, that's our priority. So when you go to our website, wealthstandardfinancial.com, we have tons of resources, number one, but there's a spot for you to make an appointment and contact us. And we give you a free 1-hour complimentary session. And it's really a strategy session to see, okay, where are you? What's your plan? What are the things you want? And can we help you get there? And if we can, we're going to let you know. And if we can't, we're going to let you know. And so our target is to really customize a relationship from a financial planning standpoint that fits what you're looking for, whether it be a lot of investment help or retirement cash flow planning, business exit planning, whether you're trying to retire from corporate America. It makes a huge difference when you have a partner to talk things out, and that's our target. So if you go to wealthstandardfinancial.com, we have tons of resources for you. We have an events page on events that we have coming up. So we're going to be talking about things like long-term care, estate planning, taxes and retirement. And so some of those events are going to be in person. Some of those events are going to be virtual for our clients that are all over the country. And so you have many ways to engage us, whether it be the podcast, our YouTube channel. We want to make retirement accessible so that you can get the retirement of your dreams.
Again, wealthstandardfinancial.com, and the number 2, it's at the top right hand of the page, 713-955-6007. Well, Brian, thank you so much for talking about this today, giving us a real-life example, and maybe hopefully jogging the minds and giving people some perspective of how they need to approach this. I know we're already in February or March of 2025, but every day is the start of a new year. If you need to get your cards in order and have that tough conversation with someone, it's never too late. So thanks for inspiring us, Brian.
Hey, I appreciate it, man. I'm ready for the next one.
Hey, there you go. We're going to do that for sure. Thank you so much also to our producer, Daniel Sallerson, for getting this thing published, edited, and put out the show, and all of you for listening in. He is Brian Butler, the CEO and Senior Wealth Advisor for Wealth Standard Financial, and this has been The Retirement Chef, Whipping Up Wealth with Brian Butler. We'll talk to y'all soon.
The opinions voiced in The Retirement Chef, Whipping Up Wealth with Brian Butler are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. Investing involves risk, including possible loss of principal. No strategy assures success or protects against loss. To determine what may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, financial, or tax advisor prior to investing. Guests on The Retirement Chef, Whipping Up Wealth are not affiliated with CWM LLC. Investment advisory services offered through CWM LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor.